Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this sunny Wednesday in Manchester. I'm Russ Hughes. I'm the editor of Pro Tools Expert. How many of you actually visit the Pro Tools Expert site, Pro Tools users? Can I just see some show of hands? That's cool, great. How many of you are Pro Tools users in the room? Are you all Pro Tools? Most of you. There's two ways we could. We're going to be recording this because it's going to go out as we do a weekly podcast. So this is going out as a podcast with these guys. But I thought while we had these guys with us today, and I'll introduce them in a second, it would be as good to talk about some industry challenges as it would be to talk about technical stuff, if that's okay. But we're going to take questions from the floor as well as it goes on. So there's a couple of things we think that have come up recently in the industry that we'd like to talk about this morning and see how you feel about it. And we'll do that. So I'm going to do a kind of intro to the podcast now, and then we'll go live, okay, and introduce these two guys. And then, is that all right, Mike?
Yep,
Mike's my deputy editor. Is there anything you want to say at this point, Mike? You're a native here.
Yeah,
I'm a Londoner.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You've have you put your woad on yet?
Yeah, I've had my jabs.
Good.
But carry on.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for coming, and we're welcome. So, yeah, as Russ says, we're going to do the podcast. So it'll be a little bit of the introductions that we normally do on the podcast, because normally we're never in the same room, are we?
No, we do it across 4 different studios. Cloud-wise.
Cloud-wise, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we hook up using Google Chat, and then they drop the files into a folder on the cloud. I pull them up, put them into Pro Tools, sync them up, and away we go. So it's a bit odd to be in the same space, but there we go. Okay, Russ.
Okay, we're ready? Okay, we're going. Fine. Well, welcome to this. Is this the number we're on?
Yes.
He's given me a script. I don't use scripts. This is fine. Welcome to Pro Tools Expert Podcast number 90. We're live from BVE North. And we have 2 special guests today. We have Paul McFadden from Bang Post. Hi, Paul. Paul's been involved in Doctor Who, Sherlock, and a few others. You're in the middle of Sherlock at the moment, are you?
Yeah, we're just finishing the last episode as we speak.
Fantastic. So we'll be talking to you later. Let's welcome Paul. And Dean. Dean is... these guys are all involved in shows that I love. So Dean's involved in Fresh Meat. Anybody watch Fresh Meat? It's about the students at university. And a great show. And Coronation Street as well. Anybody heard of that show before? I want to know how you mic the cat up. So welcome Dean as well. Let's just welcome him this morning. So we've got some questions we've had sent in, but we're going to take them from the floor as well. So we're going to mix it up a bit of technical, but we thought we'd start with quite a contentious issue this morning, which has been talked about in our industry in the last week, which is the Whitey email. Anybody read the Whitey email in the last week? Whitey is a music guy that was approached by a post-production company to supply his music to them for free because they didn't have a budget. Does that sound familiar? Okay, so we thought we'd have a chat about that this morning first as we go into this, because this is a real Ask Expert. So that's a real challenge for our industry. So how did you see the email, Paul?
Yes. I did.
And do you think he was right to lose it and put it out there and say,
Absolutely.
hey, what's your feelings about this whole industry of we have no budget for sound?
It's getting more and more common. And for instance, you know, I'm very lucky that I work on quite high-profile shows like Doctor Who and Sherlock, etc. But we still do the odd, very low-budget movie, etc. And people come to us, say, "Look, we've got no money," but we look at it. If we got some spare time, we'll do it, and hopefully we can sort of progress people, you know, young directors and producers, etc., bringing them up through the industry. But we don't just do the sound. The sound is 50% of the film, whatever. And it's creativity, and it's time and effort. And you've got to pay for that. And Whitey was right, you know, he's written all this great music, etc. And for someone just to say, I'm having it for nothing, it's wrong, absolutely wrong. You should pay for it. That man has worked his guts out, creating great work, and you've got to pay for it.
Can I pick you up on something? You just said that sound is 50% of a film or a TV.
100% for me, but
but let's play. Let's be nice for a moment. It's 50%. Do you get 50% of the budget to do sound?
No, of course we don't. We get 0.8 probably.
Okay.
0.8.
Okay. Dean, you've seen the emails.
I've seen it, yes.
We talked about this before we went live today. How do you feel he was right to write that email and put it in the public?
I think he's spot on. You know. Yeah, I just feel like quite a lot of people out there, they're not paying the right amount of money. And, you know, I'm a typical example of this. You know, I've been approached so many times, and then it gets to the contracting stage and they say, we've got nothing. So then I'll work with these guys and I'll sort of say to them, look, let's do it for this amount of money. You know, is that feasible? Pretty much, yeah. I think he's right though. He's got bottle.
You told me you were recently approached from an indie film that had about 96 grand budget. And
That's
how
right,
much did they put aside for sound?
0. Which is quite ridiculous for a high-end short film.
Can I get a show of hands? How many people in this room have been approached to work for free by a film or TV company? Can I see hands high? Okay. So it's about 25 to 30% of people in this room have been approached to work for free. How many people think it's okay for companies to ask you to work for free on projects? So that's a 0. Sorry, it's a grey area. I think the way I feel about this is that the industry's broken from top to bottom. In other words, now we have 24/7 TV. They have to fill that time up. So we have commissioning editors and buyers who have to find TV shows to fill up all these channels that they're selling advertising on. So they start filling them with my neighbour's big fat ugly dog, or my, you know, the kind of TV show. It's a good show. In fact, I thought you've been working on it.
Exactly. I do it for free.
And those shows have to be made, and those shows have to be made cheap. So we have all this derivative TV, and those production companies have to make it somehow. So basically, the system's broken, and because we're bottom of the food chain often, aren't we? In the post situation, stuff's often thrown to us in post that we have to fix. I spent 5 years in Soho running 2 post houses, and I had constantly people saying, "Would I make stuff for free?" It's full of bars and clubs and restaurants with people trying to blag free. Sometimes it works. So I think the grey area you're probably mentioning, the King's Speech was made on points with a post facility called Molyneux, and they invested in the film and it paid off. But often that's not the case. It's just companies coming, like we said there, and saying,
It's
"Hey,
very rare
it's rare that happens." That's a rarity. That's Mike. How do you feel? You've done a lot of work, haven't you?
Yeah, for me, I think working for free devalues us. It says we're not worth paying. And so, yes, there have been times when I've done a loss leader, and that's how I see it, as a loss leader. For instance, I did the first live Dolby Surround program in this country. It was a football match for Granada Television. And basically, they were looking to do football in surround. And I said, okay, we did a demo, offline demo. And I said, okay, I'll put my money where my mouth is. I'll prove we can do this live. I'll do a live one for free. Did the live one for free, got 3 years work out of it. So that's why I call it a loss leader. But you need to consider it in that context. So often we get promised, oh, if you just work for free on this, you'll be our #1 choice for the next job. It's a load of rubbish.
Yeah, stuff you can't bring into this room.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That's very true. I did a film years ago called for a director called Justin Kerrigan, I think his name was. We done it for nothing. Just out of Newport Film School, we did this film for him. Won a lot of awards. Then he went on to get quite a big feature called High Fidelity. He went to Pinewood. There you go. So, you know, you think, you know, it's a loss leader. Yeah, you know, you're nurturing talent, but still, you know, your directors are just going to go to the, you know, hey, the city lights of London and LA, etc. So have that in the back of your mind every time you sort of accept a job, is that you're not necessarily going to get the next one off them.
Shall we have a question? Any questions from the floor then? We've talked about working for free. Any technical questions that you guys would like to ask these guys this morning? We've got some backed up here, but is there anything you'd like to ask the Pro Tools guys or the film and TV guys? We'll have a think about that, and we'll come. Oh, sorry, we've got.
Hang on a sec.
Hang on a minute. We'll get this on.
Do you recommend anyone to join the industry nowadays?
Yeah, would you or could you?
Could you?
Oh yeah, could you? Would you recommend somebody get in this game these days? Could you?
I can't think of anything I want to do apart from being a sound editor, designer, mixer. It's what I want to do from an early age. When my grandmother bought me a little handheld cassette recorder, and I used to call my parents on the toilet and as a kid, you know what I mean, and record cars and stuff like that, and play stuff backwards. It's a fantastic industry, but it's very difficult to get into. I spoke to this gentleman here last night about it, and we're finding we take a lot of students from the local universities, etc., on year outs. And it's a good sort of learning curve to see how good they are and how the people skills are as well. Not just creativity, you know, because that's a given really. If you're in the, it's a given. But when they come to us, it's how they sort of react in the studio as well to clients. You know, if clients don't like you, you're not going to come back to you. You could be a brilliant mixer, but if you're rude to them, they're not going to come back. So, how do I approach?
Yeah,
Look,
how would you approach
if you got the
someone coming
talent
from another industry into this industry, who's worked for 30 years in their own industry, and have a good relationship with clients and so forth,
as
and
far
who's
as
willing to learn?
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one to get into. Obviously, it depends on the experience they've got. If you've got the people skills and if you've got the talent, you'll get in there. Us as a company, we don't sort of have any, you know, we've got a wide range of people that we use, from, you know, 16-year-olds to, you know, 60-year-olds. You know, it's not a problem. It's if you've got the talent, we're going to use you.
So, Paul, can I ask you, you're talking about this like apprenticeships almost. So what is the journey that somebody would go on to get into the industry?
I'll do an example from John, my sort of assistant. Basically, he went to the University of West of England doing a sound technology course.
Yeah.
And we had a mutual friend. He was going to do a year out at the BBC in BBC Wales.
Yeah.
The week before he was supposed to do his year out, they said, sorry, can't do it. So our mutual friend rang me. He said, look, do you want someone for free for a year? And we went, of course we do.
We're back on free, are we?
Back on the free thing again. Never work for free, that's what I'm saying. But John came to us for a year, and basically we went, he had a really good, calming persona, an aura about him. He was like, yeah, he's good with the clients, and that's a good start. He had the creativity down, not a problem. But what they were teaching them in college was, it was on like Logic. They'd never done any post-production, you know, they've done post-production modules. He came to us for a year, and we were like, John, you're doing it all wrong. This is not how we do it in the real world. You know, we start people off charting Foley, etc., because it's a good way of sort of just laying effects out and moving sync out quite, you know, easily, quickly, and you know, it was a good start. You do basic sound design. Then we get them on to doing background atmospheres, etc. Then on to effects, and then when they're really good, they can do dialogues, because that's the really hard bit, I think. And then they go on to recording Foley, and then we would assist on the ADR mixing or whatever, and then they'll go on to mixing ADR, and then they'll go on to mixing TV dramas, factual programs, and then features.
Is this on live projects, or is this on archive projects like, let's say,
Oh, no, it's live project.
Doctor Who, didn't you? So
yeah. No, I mean, John has been with us for about 3 years, 4 years now, and now he's sort of the second effects editor on Sherlock.
Where do you put, can I just ask, because you did Doctor Who, where does the mic go to pick up the sound of the TARDIS when it's moving? Because obviously it's like the engine on a car, isn't it? Where's that mic positioned on the TARDIS?
We have various plant mics around the console.
Just to pick up that.
Oh god, no. Well, that's obviously we use that from the Radiophonic Workshop and modernise it slightly.
Is it the original sound?
Yeah.
It's the original TARDIS sound from all the shows.
But what we tend to do, we have sampled that into a sampler and slowed it down, so it's like a breathing effect. If you listen to it on Doctor Who, you'll hear that. Just add a bit of reverb, and so it's like a breathing. So because Russell's first note for me when we started the first series with Chris Eccleston, 2005, was that the TARDIS is a living organic machine.
Rather than a box.
So rather than a box, they're grown.
Yes.
So there you go. So we thought, well, we'll take the sound of the TARDIS, and we wouldn't want to mess around with the Radiophonic Workshop stuff. I mean, God, we all idolise those people.
Yeah, it's almost sacred ground.
It's sacred. If we ever change that, the sonic screwdriver or anything, God.
I think you have Doctor Who fans outside your building.
Well, we have had Doctor Who fans
telling you off,
sending me cards.
Let's get back on getting into the industry. We were talking earlier. You think it's as much people skills as it is technical, don't you?
It is, yeah. So I would say it's pretty much 60-70% soft skills and 30% technical. You could be the biggest whiz, you know, in the world, but essentially if you don't know how to run a session, then it's not going to happen, I'm afraid. It's a tough industry to crack, and you know, I've gone from the ground up, so I've gone through all the crap that you have to, unfortunately. But pretty much, if you've got the determination, you know, and you sort of step back a little bit and master the techniques, then you will make it, you know.
Mike,
Russ, can I just pick up what the
think
gentleman was saying,
Yeah.
because I hadn't quite finished what you were saying.
We got onto the TARDIS.
That's the TARS. Yes, I'll go back in the TARS and answer that question. What you were saying, we get lots of CVs every month. You know, probably about 10 CVs, right? To be honest with you, they're just going out waste bin. You know, what you need to do, get on the phone and go and see these people, knock on doors, right? That's, you know, and say, look, can I come in, sit in with you for a few days? That's what I personally like. Yeah, we have lots of people shadowing us. You know, obviously we've got to be a bit careful with the sort of content that we're showing people, because obviously the 50th anniversary and Sherlock's and stuff. Oh, I know how we did it, you know, and that sort of stuff. So we, you know, we got to be careful what we work on and show them.
Can I also come from a business background, because I was in post houses in Soho in London. Get onto things like LinkedIn. Make sure you're networking. Go to networking groups. So I run a group on LinkedIn called the London Production Network. It has about 4,500 members, and people use that to post their CVs, to post their latest reels. So create a reel. That's another one, isn't it?
Yeah,
if you've got if you're not going to get any work from a sound production facility if they haven't heard what you can do. So create reels, even if it's stuff that you make yourself, just so you can show them how you're doing ADR and how you're doing Foley and whichever specialism you're going to work in. Mike, you worked with apprenticeships for quite a long time. Do you think they're prepared for the real world? Excuse me for saying it like that.
Yes and no. I mean, I came from an apprenticeship. I served my apprenticeship back in the 70s with Marconi's. I did a 3-year apprenticeship, at that point, with the placements I did in the factory, I was ready for the world of work. My concern about the current apprenticeship schemes is they are 12 months, 18 months long. It's I don't think it's long enough, but it's what is being presented. I mean, you've got the level 3 qualifications, which is the equivalent to A-levels, if you like, in old money. They're now bringing out level 4 qualifications, which is lower sort of degree level. And they're expecting people to, you know, from a standing start to working in industry in 12 months. It's just not enough. You know, Paul, I'm sure you know from your own experience how long it takes for people to get comfortable with using the technology and skilled. It takes quite a long time.
I mean, knowing the equipment is one thing, right? But it's the people skills. And you know, that's intrinsic to how we work. You know, it's how we need to have a connection with the producers, directors. You know, because we've got to take their vision and transcode it into sound coming out of those speakers. And you've got to be able to talk to them about it. You know what I mean? You can't say, "What's this like? Do you like this? Like this?" You know, and we can say, "Well, what you know?" When we talked about making the TARDIS sounds and stuff, you know, so we had a good couple of days with Russell before we started cutting the first episode. Talking about what we're going to do, you know, and how he wants it to sound.
How much of a course is people skills?
The course that I have been involved in, there is very little people skills. But on the placement, I mean, again, you've got the elements, the taught elements, and the placements out in the workplace. The taught elements in the schemes that I was involved in very much give an overview. So you get a sense of pre-production, production, post-production, even though you may not end up in any of those sectors. Whereas the placements are obviously a lot more targeted. So you might go and work in a sound house. You might go and work in Sumner's for a while. Now, that said, Sumner's was a really good placement for apprentices, because when they went into Sumner's, they went in as T-boys, as runners. And that is 100% people skills.
That's how I started.
You walk.
Me too.
Yeah, you walk in. You walk into an edit suite to ask them whether they're going to have a cup of tea. You have no idea whether they are pulling their hair out, whether there's just been a major cock up or whatever, and you might get your head bitten off. And so it's how do you walk into those situations? How do you deal with creative people? Let's face it, we can all get a little tense and a little nervy at the best of times when things are perhaps not going quite so well. How do you handle these people? And so from that point of view, those sorts of placements were absolutely brilliant, because it was all about people skills. But some of the other times, you have this problem where they're not skilled enough to actually start doing something for real. And my biggest gripe with what's happening now is the budgets have been slashed and slashed and slashed. So there is no scope to have a trainee on the job. So whereas in the good old days, we'd have a sound trainee out on an OB, we'd have trainees running through the project all the time. There isn't the budget. I know production go through a program budget and say, oh, you don't need that person, we can do without that person, we can cut. So how are people going to learn how to do the job on the job if those opportunities aren't available? And so that really does concern me, because you look around, especially sort of heads of departments, senior sound supervisor, audio dubbing editor and mixer. I mean, fortunately, I'm the exception, but most of us, our hair is going a little silver. And there aren't the well-structured, long-term training schemes available for people to get to learn how to do the job properly and learn how to handle people and all the rest of it. Key skills, all those soft skills. I mean, I would totally agree. That is sort of 80-20. And so that is my biggest concern in terms of training. Yes, they're all there now. This has been new money from Skill Set to do short-term courses and all the rest of it. Yes, if I need to learn about a piece of technical kit, I can go on a little short course. But that's not the issue. The issue is long-term career progression.
Thanks, Mike. Any responses to that or any more questions? Sorry, at the back. Just give me a sec to get there. Do me Mr. Ransom bit. Show me age as well.
Would you not then think that you've stemmed about training and you look at the education system, there are dozens and dozens and dozens of universities now pumping out courses, taking thousands and thousands of pounds off students. They've got brief modules in post-production, and I'm well aware of several that offer some Pro Tools training. But you look at what's actually being taught in them, there's nothing to do with acquisition, so they can cut up stuff on Pro Tools, fair enough, quite easily, and with a fair amount of skill. But when you come to dealing with real world problems, they've got no idea why that dialogue track might sound muffled or damaged, or there might be noise on this or that, because they've never been out and done it. So surely the training, realistically, it's not going to come from post houses anymore because their budgets have just been destroyed. Then we need to be putting the pressure more on educational system to change what they're actually doing and making them provide better quality from not just sort of the private sector of education. There's quite a few good schools out there now, and Ravensbourne are still doing a fantastic job.
Do you work for Ravensbourne?
I don't know. I work for a major competitor.
Paul, do you want to come back on that, Paul?
Yeah, no, I'd love
Thank
to.
you.
Look, I think we've got to educate the people that are educating you, for a start. I'm using John as my Padawan, as I call him. He was working on Soundtrack Pro in the college. It's not being used in the real world, guys. Let's be honest. It's not being used by anybody apart from the accountants at the think, oh, this is good. Look, the sound editing, they can have that thrown in for nothing. Don't have to pay for that. So it's people like the manufacturers are going to help. Getting Avid and people like that have got to sort of do really good, getting people in, getting systems in place. I mean, when John came in on his work year out, like I said before, he knew nothing that was really useful in the real world. Yeah, he knew technically, cut, splice, copy, paste, all the usual stuff, but he didn't know how to chart Foley. His sync was a bit iffy, and then it's like, look at the sync on that, John. When he's laying atmospheres, he lay a bird track that was like an exterior when it should be on an interior, and all of a sudden the end of a scene, the bird tweet go. So well, cut that off, Can
I ask, both of you, is it because for a college, the way to get the kids through the door is to sell them a sexy course, which is about cool Pro Tools music stuff and all that kind of stuff, and it's not so sexy to sell a course that's all about frame rates or charting and stuff. Do you think that's one of the problems, is that they're trying to sell courses to kids who are going to be attracted to the music side of it first?
I think you're exactly right. I think quite a lot of people out there, they don't actually know what they're doing, before they actually sign up for the course. So they're probably confused. Whereas probably we give a variation at the School of Sound Recording. So we sort of offer music and post-production, maybe a combination of them both. So then at least maybe in the second semester they have the option of going that way or that way.
Do you think the industry needs to I saw Gravity. How many people have seen Gravity so far? You have to see it for the sound design. It's got awesome 3D pictures, but the sound design is absolutely stunning. Do you think we need to kind of set up kind of icons in picture for the post world like they have in the sound world? So you get like Dave Pensado for Music Boys, or you get some of these top producers all the Music Boys love watching. Do you think we need to put things out like Doctor Who and like Gravity to the sound world and say, hey, this is really cool stuff you should be doing?
Yes, no, you should. You should really. I mean, going back onto the university courses, you know, I don't want to diss and come across that I'm dissing all the university courses, all right? Because there's a lot of good stuff out there. But I still think they need to go that extra step. And some of these people that are training people are not industry professionals and been in the real world, or they have, but they haven't been in it for many years. And technology and workflows has moved on immensely over the last sort of 4 to 5 years. You know, I used to record, you know, autoconform on DAT and things like that, and now I haven't used a DAT for 7 or 8 years. You know, I haven't seen a tape for years.
Here's a technical question that's come in that I've
God.
got 2 of them. No, but actually it's interesting, but it's not really a Pro Tools question. It's more, I've got 2 questions. They're very similar. The first one is that, here's the first one. A sound guy's written to us and said he's got picture that was tracked on cameras at 48, and the sound guy tracked all the audio at 44.1.
Oh.
Obviously now it's not going to match. How do you deal with that?
Okay, sample rate conversions in Pro Tools,
Which don't always work.
Sort of. We do a lot of frame rate conversions because we do multiple, we do feature films and they do 25 frame versions. You know, obviously the native 24, and then they want HD 23.976 and 29.97. And we're using Pro Tools quite a lot to sort of sample rate convert sessions, etc. So say for instance we just did a film called The Machine that's just won a host of awards at Rain Dance and stuff. That was shot at 24. We posted it all at 24. Sound was all done at 24. Fantastic. Then they wanted the deliverables list. Right, we mixed it in about a week, 8 days. It took 2 weeks to do the different versions at deliverables list at the end because they wanted stems of 25, 24. Obviously, that 24 was fine. We had to do 25, sample rate convert and pitch them. Then we had to do 23.976. Then we had to do 29.97, and they wanted all different, all starting at the same hours, etc. It took me 2 weeks to do those deliverables, longer than we mixed the film. So going back onto the sort of budgetary things that we were talking about earlier, when people say we've got no money, yeah, we can mix the film in a couple of days, wherever, and then also, no, they've sell it. We want an M&E now, and then we want different versions around the place. People don't think about the project as a whole, at the end. It's like, hang on, we finished the film, we just want you to do the sound. Yeah, mixing the sound is fine. We can make it all 5.1, we can do an LTRT, we can do a TV mix, whatever, R128, whatever versions we want to do. Then afterwards, they go, by the way, we haven't got the money, but we've got like 20 different versions of the film to do for you. Can you do that?
Dean, for you, a similar question, because you do a lot of ADR work, don't you? A lot of reversioning. Similar question that's come in. He's got rushes through from cameras, and the camera mics weren't synced with the audio. How do you go about that? Are you going through then chopping in Pro Tools and lining it all back up? How are you doing it? Or just one single sync and then hopefully it's all in?
You could chop them. Essentially all the takes are going to be at the same length. So pretty much what
if they're recorded at the same frame rate, at the same sample rates?
If they're at the same, you'll just pretty much snap the start to all of them. And then probably just drop them on individual tracks, and then hopefully they'll match up.
So you eye matching? Are you eye matching sound to picture at that point? Or
yeah, exactly. So I think, obviously if the waveform's the same as well, it should be similar. Then you can do it that way as well.
Have you ever had it where the camera's got no audio at all?
Yes. Yes.
I think
we all had that.
Yeah, I had 2 cameras at Christmas with no audio.
Yeah, I did one when I first started the industry, where it was all all shot on film, transferred to Betacam for the editor to edit, and they forgot to transfer the audio at the same time. So they had all the pictures on Beta, and they went, oh, it's no sound. So I had to load up the DATs into my system at the time that I was using, sync them up, then reconsolidate selection so they were time stamped, so then I could autoconform it later again. Lovely. Took me weeks.
Any more questions from the floor? Oh, sorry, didn't see you.
Just something that's come up before, and I just thought I'd ask your opinion on. So if you're going to the point where you're approaching a post-production studio and you want to do some work experience with them or work with them in general, do you prefer if someone comes in and says, I'm really interested in learning about dialogue and dialogue is what I want to be into, or I want to do sound effects, or do you prefer them to just sort of come in and say they just want to do sound? You know, do you prefer that sort of, once they know what they want to do, do you like them to come in and say, this is what I want to do? Does it help you in positioning them and sort of get them where they want to go?
But look,
So who's your ideal candidate is the question.
Yeah,
Who's gonna light your candle when they
okay,
speak
well
to you?
look, I mean, what tends to happen, right, and you fall into it, I think, is that I wouldn't say which department you want to get into, because they might not have a position there. So would you rather just have an option, a chance to go in and work with an effects editor for a few days, or nothing at all? Basically, you can use whatever department you want to go into. You can take elements of that and transpose it into different departments. You know, you can think, oh, that's a good way of doing, making fill or looping an Atmos, wherever. Well, I can loop that sync sound, So, but if you're going to be a freelancer, for instance, I found if you're a jack of all trades, you've got a much better chance. And you could be a better all-round sound supervisor or whatever you want to be, a mixer, for instance, if you can just sort of not pigeonhole yourself as an effects editor, Foley editor, dialogue, ADR editor, whatever. You might specialize in that, but don't sort of pigeonhole yourself as, I'm an effects editor, because I might not need an effects editor on a job. I might need a dialogue editor. So you try and be, at least have a good knowledge, basic knowledge of all the sort of the crafts, and then see if you want to specialize in one certain part of it.
Dean, who's your ideal candidate when you're looking for talent?
I feel it's important to know everything. You need to understand the full scope. As we was going back before a little bit, always think of the final process. And then, because if you don't know what's happening at that stage, then God help you on the initial journey. But I think it's important, dialogues, effects, Foley, you need to have your hands in all of the pies.
When I was in Soho, literally the CVs like you are coming in every day, and a lot of them do email. I'll tell you how not to apply. I used to get emails from guys who would say, I'd like to work at your place, I'm really good, I'm on a college course, email me back. Half of it was misspelled. Often there wasn't contact information in it. So it's such a big pond for the post houses to fish from. That's full of people looking for jobs. You have to be above the rest, even when you're starting. So you need to have red hot CVs, and even if you haven't got experience, you can talk about how you. What I was looking for was people who were useful.
Yeah,
that's the term.
CVs.
Be useful.
Follow up on the phone.
Yeah, get on the phone. As we said before.
Don't just email again. Oh, I sent you a CV a month ago, with another CV,
and
just in case you didn't get it.
And make contacts and make friends. Because the second thing I'd do is see who they knew that I knew. Because the next thing I'd do is pick up the phone and say, hey, I've got Alex. He sent me a CV. What do you think of him? So get your face around, get your name out. And it might even be at college. So you might ring up the college tutors and say, hey, you've got 3 of your students have sent me CVs because they're coming out of college. Who would you choose out of those 3? And that's the kind of stuff as well, isn't it, Mike?
It is. It's all about networking. And so being at these sorts of events, talking to people, it is that following up. It's that personal touch.
Yeah. You don't get your personality from a sheet of paper.
I'll tell you where we do. I'll tell you where we are getting it these days. We're getting it from forums, and we're getting it from Facebook and social media. So if you go into forums, the Process Expert blog was born out. I used to be in the DigiDesign user forum, and I'd go in, and soon you start to understand the kind of attitudes that people have. So you can see whether there are people who are in there to help, or people in there just to troll, and who just a pain in the ass. And I'm thinking if they're a pain in the ass in a forum, they're probably 10 times worse in real life. So people read those forums, they know who you are. It doesn't take long. I'm Russ UK in those forums, but people know who I am really. So those kind of places, make sure that wherever you are, whether that's online or in the real world, be useful, be respectful, so that your reputation goes before you, because that's tomorrow's profit for you. So people got to know that you're a decent guy that they want to have in their post facility. Because when people come into our post facilities, they're wired. They don't need the people working in them to wire them any higher. they seriously don't have the time. The producers don't have the budgets, and they really need to get the work done quick. And they want to know that you're safe hands. And most of the time, most of the great sound engineers in post-process I've worked with never say a word during the projects, apart from when they're spoken to, because somebody doesn't want your opinion on their movie. Because as far as they're concerned, it's the best movie in the world. They don't need you to tell them it's not, even if it is.
Ask it to shadow is a good way.
Shadow
of
is
getting
good.
it. Shadowing is good.
Sit in post facilities with the best people, the top guys. Yeah, make tea for the top engineer. That's what I did. We're not saying this because we've been
5 years I made tea.
Yeah, it's still rubbish.
Still
Any more questions? This gentleman
Still
here.
sugar.
This is where it all kicks off. We've got about 4 minutes to go, and all the questions start now.
As Pro Tools experts, where do you see Adobe Audition?
The question was, as Pro Tools experts, where do we see Adobe Audition?
Over there.
Yeah.
On a computer platform I don't use. I'm a Mac user. Audition. I mean, I know Audition now is on the Mac, yeah, but
Here's my point. Here's the issue with the whole industry when it says right now, whether we like it or not, whether we like Avid or not, and lots of people don't, Pro Tools is the industry standard. It doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon.
No.
There are other doors out there, and what we've always said on Pro Tools Expert, you use the door that you use. End of. So if you're a Studio One user or an Adobe Audition user or whatever it is, then use it if it works for you. But if you're working in workflows with lots of other facilities and they're all on Pro Tools, like there's some facilities in Soho that use Fairlight and they swear by it. And I've got a friend that runs a big sound post house in Birmingham that lives on Fairlight. But often when you're in workflows, I know you can move stems around and stuff like that, but generally what you want to do, and you again, time and money, a project's coming in, if it's Pro Tools, you haven't got time to start converting everything.
No.
So there's lots of great products out there that some of them are better than Pro Tools, but they're not the industry standard.
No. I mean, I've worked on like 8 or 9 different platforms. I started off in an audiophile, Audiovision, Waveframe,
Wow,
Akai.
you are old.
God, yeah. But, like I said, we mix in the box. You know what I mean? So we've got to make sure, if you're going to bring a session to us, or, we've got to make sure there's compatibility across the board with your Adobe Audition session that we can get into our system. So,
the best you're going to do is send stems to a facility.
You might have to bounce stuff out just to make sure it's guaranteed 100% compatibility, which means no flexibility afterwards.
We've got 1 minute. Where's my microphone? There it is. We've got 1 minute for one question.
What would you prefer? Someone who's studied and got sort of degrees, like a bachelor's or a master's, or someone who's not gone and got a degree but has more experience, say, than the person who's got the degrees? But if the person who has the degrees has been taught by the right people, what would you sway towards?
Okay, one word answer from all of you. Experience or qualifications?
I've got no qualifications.
Dean, experience or qualifications?
I've got the Pro Tools qualifications.
What would you want, sorry?
No qualifications.
Yeah, what would you want? Somebody coming in.
I would say
No, I don't.
it depends on the person.
Depends on the person.
Yeah, what you said.
Mike, experience or qualifications?
experience every time.
Yeah, I'd say the same too. I've got no qualifications.
If been taught by the right people, Mike.
Yes. Yeah, bad habits.
If Dean taught you?
No.
Are you saying he has taught you?
I wouldn't take you if Dean taught you.
He has taught you. Well, I wouldn't take you on then.
No, I wouldn't either. No, forget it.
No, just a quick straw poll then. Do you think there's a missing sort of chunk in the industry where we should do a kind of people skills course training for people coming out? Who thinks that's a good idea, that those kind of things should happen? Kind of we could do setups where we have angry customers sat in pretend studios.
I've got loads of people I
Yeah,
can throw you over.
I can give you real clients today. Anyway, we're out of time. We have to clear the room, but thank you everybody for being here today. Can we say thank you to our guests who've travelled to be here and share their wisdom today? Thank you.
Thank you.